What's up, everyone? Welcome back to the Victory Podcast. On today's episode, we have on Chris Hope. Chris recently wrote a book called P.R.O.S. That's Parents Relying on Their Seeds, P.R.O.S. And before that, Chris played 11 years in the NFL as a safety, mostly with the Steelers and the Titans. He was a Super Bowl champ with the Steelers, won a national title at Florida State under Coach Bobby Bowden, over 20 interceptions, 700 tackles in his career. You can find him at chrishopefoundation.org. His website, P.R.O.S, P-R-O-S by chrishope.com is where you can find his book. And on Twitter, he's at ICHope24, Instagram at P.R.O.S by Chris Hope. So without any further ado, here is our conversation with Chris on all things related to his football career. So, Chris, we got to know, man, right off the bat, what are you thinking about Super Bowl Sunday? Any predictions?
Well, I'm not a betting man, but if I had to bet, you don't go against the GOAT, which is Tom Brady and the New England Patriots. I also have some personal relationship with some of the guys that's on the Patriots teams. You know, Stephon Gilmore and Cordell Patterson are from my hometown, Rock Hill, South Carolina, a.k.a. Football USA City.
Yep.
Jason McCourty and Devin McCourty are also some of my great friends. Jason, being a rookie for the Tennessee Titans when I played for the Titans, was a guy that I mentored, and he just became my little brother that I never had. And he also lives in my neighborhood here in Nashville, Tennessee.
So Rock Hill, is Jadeveon Clowney go there too?
Yes, sir. Jadeveon Clowney, Mason Rudolph, Jonathan Joseph. You know, the list keeps going.
Football U down there, right?
Ben Watson. I know everyone knows Ben Watson. He's from my hometown too.
No kidding, right?
Something in the water there.
Yeah, it is something in the water there. So yeah, and then you guys were able to all be successful in the NFL as well. So you got the Patriots on Sunday. Steve mentioned, is there any score predictions? Do you think it's going to be a blowout? I mean, I guess you can say, just off your gut, what do you think it's going to be?
I'm not sure about the score, but I think it'll be a lot closer than what we thinking. Mm-hmm. And I think if it's a blowout, it probably will go in the favor of the Rams. I think the Rams do have a good opportunity to match up well against the Patriots offense. You know, you have two corners, in my opinion, that are very locked down. Just depend on how well Peters plays and how focused he is. I think he can cover any guy that the Patriots have. And Talib can do the same on the other side. I think they have a good chance of stopping that offense. You know, when Aaron Donald and Fowler and Sue up front, now you just have to eliminate the big plays and kind of keep the Patriots off balance. You know, the Patriots do a great job of getting second and short and staying ahead of the sticks. So they pretty much controlled the tempo on the last few games they played against.
Yeah. Now you yourself played in this crazy week of the Super Bowl. What was it like as a young player going through that, as far as just the media and all the BS you got to deal with before the actual game?
I think I was fortunate and blessed. I tell people this all the time. I'm so fortunate to play in the Super Bowl, and then, more importantly, play in the Super Bowl in Detroit. And people say, well, what do you mean by that? And I say, well, it's a city that was super, super cold. It wasn't extremely a lot of things going on. I know they had parties. They had the festivities that go along with the Super Bowl, but we didn't have those distractions. And when you play in a city like Atlanta, Houston, Miami, New Orleans, for some reason, guys don't understand how important this one game is. And sometimes it's so easy to get caught up into all the things that's going on around the city that you lose focus on while you're there, and you end up going out and not playing the best game you can play. I think that's where the advantage goes to the New England Patriots, because Belichick is a guy who knows how important his weekend is, and he keeps on to the guys. He's not trying to be your friend this weekend. He's strictly there to win the Super Bowl, and he doesn't care if you have a good time. He cares about winning. I think that was the biggest aha moment I got now looking back at the Super Bowl, is that where we played, for one, we didn't have many distractions, and two, we were there for business. I think the year before was a disappointment because we went 15-1 and we lost in the AFC championships, championship game to the New England Patriots. Spygate. We lost to those guys in the AFC championship. But I think that was our Super Bowl excitement year because we were really excited about going to the Super Bowl that year. And I think we would have been just taken away by the experience.
Mm-hmm.
But being that we got so close and we lost, we know that the ultimate goal is winning the Super Bowl and anything else is failure. So the next year we came back with the mentality Super Bowl or bust.
Mm-hmm.
And when the game came, we focused strictly on the game and we celebrated afterwards. So my experience with the Super Bowl was kind of a dry one, to be
Well, I mean,
clear.
that loss in the AFC Championship, that could have been a blessing in disguise for you guys to, humble you guys a little bit to get back to that point where, like you said, it is all business because maybe that year, if you did get there, it would have been a little bit more glorified in a sense of like, going to the parties or whatever it may be, as
Right.
opposed to having that all business attitude.
Absolutely.
So what was the biggest distraction for that week? Was it having to sit in the media days? Was it just keeping your mind right, and treating that bye week, so to say, with that off week? Or was it just like all the hoopla going on? And I want to add part 2 of this question too, sitting through that halftime celebration where you got to wait. I shouldn't say celebration, halftime concert. We got to wait an extra extended time and your body starts to cool down. You got to restretch it again and refocus again.
So the first part of that question, I'll say, I talk about it in my book, P.R.O.S, P.R.O.S, Parents Relying on Their Seeds. Go to Amazon, order it, or go to my website, P.R.O.S by Chris Hope. I talk about one of the biggest distractions that most fans don't realize and most players don't realize unless you've already experienced playing in the Super Bowl is that week before the Super Bowl, which some people think is an off week or a bye week. This is an opportunity for you to clean up some of the mistakes you've made in the AFC Championship or NFC championships game. And then you have the opportunity to do what's most important, get tickets, get travel arrangements set, and get all those things that have nothing to do with football taken care of, dealing with your family, your friends, and your loved ones. That part is just as hectic as playing in the game because, deciding who's going, where they're staying, how much you're investing in it, that can kind of put a damper on the weekend. And Coach Cowher, being that he coached in the Super Bowl when they played against the Dallas Cowboys. He unfortunately lost that game. He knew the experience. So his first day, that first Monday after we won the AFC Championship, his first comment to the group was, take care of your tickets today. You must have your requests in today. We will not go through this again. So make sure you get your ticket requests in today. And that was one of the biggest burdens that we all had to face as players. And to get that off our backs and then go into the game with a free conscience was awesome. And now to your halftime show. I joke all the time, and I say halftime is probably the quickest experience in the NFL that I've ever had. If in most cases, if you don't run to the locker room at halftime, you probably won't get a break. That's why you see guys run off the sideline into the locker room because it's that quick. So in the NFL, in the Super Bowl, I remember Coach Cowher, being that he had the experience already of coaching in it, he told us to get to the locker room, take your cleats off, take your shoulder pads off. We're going to have sandwiches. We're going to have fruit. We're going to have juices. And I'm like, well, wait a minute. I mean, there's no way we have enough time to do all that. And then I get into the locker room, and he puts this big 45-minute clock on the wall. And I'm like, well, I see now. And then you have all the glitz and glamours and the highlight, the halftime show that the fans and the TV and everyone loves. But as a player, you have to unplug, refuel, charge the battery, and then you have to get back into that mindset. That's why that first series coming out of the Super Bowl, that first series out of halftime is pretty much determines the game if it's a close game.
Right. Now, you, of course, won a Super Bowl with the Steelers, but also 1999 National Championship team, Florida State Seminoles, sorry. What parallels did you see just being on two great teams? Just looking at the coaches, whether it's Coach Bowden, Coach Cowher, or just the makeup of the team, what is there, if anything, that was a consistent that you've seen on the best teams that you've been on?
Great leadership. Great leadership, which starts from the top. You said it, Coach Bowden and Coach Cowher. It doesn't get any better than that. I've been fortunate enough to play with some amazing coaches, amazing mentors, and then you go down and trickle down to the leadership of the players. We had some veteran guys, Jerome Bettis, Hines Ward, Joey Porter, Chemo Van Offenhar. I mean, we had guys from the top of the roster to the bottom of the roster. We were very talented as well. Talent is very important, but the most talented team doesn't always win. It's the talent. It's the most talented team that plays together as a team. Our camaraderie at Florida State as well as in Pittsburgh was just off the charts. You know, it's very rare that you have so much talent on one team and everyone is unselfish. Everyone is pulling for each other, and we played together as a team, and it showed. You know, when you look back at those teams, we all worked hard. We were all unselfish. We were all dedicated. We were all focused. We were all in. Everyone did their role. Everyone accepted their role and played well in it. And then we were well coached. And I think that's what is the chemistry, or the chemistry added on top of that is what I think is the equation for a successful championship team.
Right. And you just piggybacking off of that, Coach Bowden, Coach Cow, specifically them, but I guess really all the coaches that you've played with, whether there was a head coach, coordinator, positional, would you say it's most important that they are a leader of men? Is it the X's and O's, attention to detail? What do you think the best of the best really hit in maybe that's one thing that just some of the guys that had not yet reached that level of success, maybe they just never mastered that part of the game?
I would say accountability. All those coaches were very accountable. They were fair. They were strict, but they were fair. They hold everyone accountable, no matter whether you were the All-American on the college football team or the walk-on. You know, in the National Football League, whether you were a first rounder or an All-Pro or, you know, a free agent. Coach Cowher's message, Coach Bowden's message was the same to each and every one of us. And by that, you know, you think about Belichick, you think about Coach Pop for the San Antonio Spurs. Those coaches set the standard of how the organization is ran. And because of that, it trickles down and no one wants to be the weak link. I think when you have a coach that carries himself in that manner, and I think he holds his own self to a level of expectation and responsibility, you don't want to let him down. He set the standard. He set the cadence. And the players that follow behind him set the culture of the locker room and of the team. And I think that right there separates good X and O coaches from coaches that can relate to the players and get them to run through a wall for them.
Now, how hard is that for a new coach to do that? You know, I know in a more established coach like a Belichick, we look back at his greatness. But, you know, looking at guys like a Matt Patricia or even like a Kyle Shanahan coming to a new coaching position, how hard
even
is that?
Yeah, Vrabel taking over for the Titans.
Yeah, Vrabel taking over for the Titans as well. How hard is that to echo that message as soon as they get to the locker room day one?
I think it's an approach you have to take, being that just like a rookie coming into the NFL or a five-star athlete coming into a college locker room, you have to prove yourself. So being a young coach, you have to come in and prove yourself. You can't come in with this dictator attitude saying it's this way or no way, because you have veteran guys on that team and you have guys who've already kind of set the precedence of the organization that he's stepping foot into. But I will say, in most cases, organizations that hire new coaches like that every year probably don't have a good standard set. So as a player, you have to be respectful of this new standard of excellence that this new coach is bringing. But what that coach has to do most and foremost and most importantly is be consistent. They are waiting as a player. We are waiting for you not to be consistent. And the minute or moment you're not consistent, you start to lose some of the guys. But if you come in, you're humble, you're letting us know that you're with us and not I'm here and you're under us. Like I'm the boss and you do it my way. No, we're doing this as a team, because what most coaches don't realize is, and players also, I tell people this all the time. When we win, we all win. Everyone looks good. When we lose, the leader gets the blame. So as a coach, you know, I would never try to create this imaginary line that separates me from my players, because I want them to believe in me. I want them to know that I got their back and their best interest. And from that, we play together. I coach hard, they play hard, and we both win. So I think as a new coach, you have to come in with that mentality, humble spirit. It's not my way or the highway. I want to hear from you guys. I don't want to just hear your voice. I want to really take heed to what you're saying. And how can we create this new atmosphere, this winning atmosphere and attitude together as a group?
So
Right.
also just touching on that point too, what do you think is maybe the one or two biggest things that, let's say, you take a head coaching job, what is the first two things that you would turn around as soon as you got to a new program to, if it is a losing franchise or someone that needs to get over that 8-8 hump, what's the first thing you go in there and you implement right away?
Character.
Yeah.
I think character is the most important thing because, you know, we're all men. We all have egos. We all have our own agendas, to speak. But I think when you have a locker room of high character guys, where they are men of integrity and their behavior is on display, whether you're around or not, that footprint and motto bleeds throughout the building.
Mm-hmm.
And that bleeds from top to bottom. And then once you get the character guys that can play football too, now you weed out those guys that aren't character guys that may can play high level football, but if they're not willing to buy into this standard of excellence that these character guys are setting, it's so easy to weed them out.
Mm-hmm.
So I have always been high on that. You hear guys all the time say, you hear these young athletes say, I would do anything to make it to the NFL. If you told me to meet you every night to run this hill 10 times a night, this would guarantee that I would make it to the NFL, they would do it. And they're not getting paid at all.
Mm-hmm.
So how can you get to the NFL where you're getting paid and now it's hard for you to work? I have to beg you to be in shape. I have to beg you to come to training camp on time. That's a character issue.
Yeah.
It has nothing to do with football. It has nothing to do with your skill set. That's character. Now you have your money. Now you've made it. Now the character of who you are really shows up. I think a lot of coaches, a lot of GMs, a lot of organizations overlook character guys when they're at the combine doing these interviews. They're not asking the right questions. And then when they get a guy to their organization, they wonder where this guy comes from.
Mm-hmm.
He was in there the entire time,
Yeah.
but you stayed surface because you were so caught up into his splash plays and his film that you didn't look and see what kind of guy this is. You think about a guy like Aaron Donald. If you gave Aaron Donald $200 million today, he is going to be the same Aaron Donald today as he was when he held out, no matter what. You don't have to worry about is Khalil Mack working out. If he's going to be in shape when you offer him this big money to come into training camp later. He's a character guy. He cares about what he's doing and what his tape looks like. So whether he's holding out, you don't have to worry about if he's in shape. You don't have to worry about him on South Beach on a boat, making Twitter videos because he's working. And then once you give him that check, his mindset is I'm going to show these people why I'm worth all this money.
Exactly.
That's good character. Those are the kind of guys that I wouldn't hesitate. I wouldn't hesitate to write Aaron Donald a check. Tom Brady, I wouldn't hesitate to write him a check because the game is more important than his bank account.
All right, but be honest. Would you hesitate to write Le'Veon Bell a check?
I would. I really would. In my opinion, I'm a Steeler. I think he's an awesome talent. But again, I've seen guys that he's no more talented than that didn't take all that. Jerome Bettis, it didn't take all that with Jerome Bettis. I played with Peter Warrick in college. One of the most humble guys I ever played with, probably one of the greatest college football players of all time. It didn't take all that. So, again, I'm not mad at Le'Veon Bell for holding out and wanting his money. Hines Ward had a holdout when I was with the Pittsburgh Steelers. But he did it the right way. He didn't make it this public scene. He didn't make it this war between the organization and himself. He knew what he put on tape. He continued to work out when he was away from the team. So when he did get his money, he came in and he was ready to go. We didn't have to wait for him to get in shape. We didn't have to hold our breath thinking he was going to get hurt when we put him in. He was already ready to go because he's a character guy. So, again, it would be hard for me to pay Le'Veon Bell because, for one, I just don't know who would walk away from $14 million.
Yeah.
You got to be kind of off to do that anyway, unless you're Bill Gates or someone. But
wait, how common is that now? Guys to show up out of shape like that, or even if they're holding out for their money, is that common, or is that, like you said, based on their character?
I think that's all character.
It is,
It's all character because, again, if I'm holding out, I know what I'm worth, and I know what I want to get in my contract, and then they decide to give it to me. Now it's on me to go out and show the world why I held out, why I stood my ground, and why I'm worth every dime or penny they gave me.
Yep.
But to come in and not be in shape, that just kind of puts a pin in the whole thing. And then you go out and get injured. Now you ruined the whole deal. To
Yeah,
me,
and you can translate that to business as well. You know, as people raising money and they get a whole ton of money, now they can kind of relax a little bit, and that's a character thing as well. Being able to, once you get that money, to be able to keep working. Because when you
right,
have nothing, you got to work to get something. When you have
right,
something, you got to maintain that something. So,
exactly.
you know, and that relates to football, life, everything. You know, so I know exactly what you're talking about in that sense. But it's I was just always wondering if guys show up out of shape. How much patience does a coach actually have with someone who's out of shape? Do you wait for him to get in shape if he's that good of a player, or you just, you know, lump off the fat as soon as possible?
I mean, it puts the organization in a bind because now we've invested so much money in him.
Yeah.
Now it's like, well, we don't want to rush him and get him hurt, but at the same time, it's frustrating as a coach because it's like now we waited for you. Now we want to use this new car we've just bought, and you telling us we can't drive you, but once a week until we get your engine revved up.
Mm-hmm.
And now it's like, well, what have you been doing the entire time? And now it's going forward every off season. Are we going to have to wait for you to do this every off season, or are you going to make it your lifestyle? Like working out, staying in shape is not something that I did just to get prepared for a season. It became
Yeah.
a lifestyle. This is a pro. You're a pro. You're a professional. This is your livelihood. This is not something to get your abs ready to go to the beach for spring break. This is something that you do every day.
Mm-hmm.
Now, Chris, just switching gears a little bit, I wanted to pick your brain. You know, after your Super Bowl win with the Steelers, you hit free agency. You're now in a position where you can dictate what your future is. What went into, and of course, we know you go to Nashville, you have a great career there. But what went into your decision? Why was it that you picked Nashville over any place else?
Well, first, I never wanted to leave Pittsburgh. If to be honest, I think myself and Troy, we hadn't even touched our prime yet. We were one of the, I think, the most winningest safeties in the league at the time, and we were still in year 4 and 5. We hadn't even touched our best football yet. And I had so many great relationships in Pittsburgh with my teammates, and I think we were in the midst of a dynasty of our own, But unfortunately, the Steelers couldn't pay me what I was worth at that time, and it came between Nashville, the Dolphins, and San Francisco. Growing up, I was a big San Francisco fan. I remember one of the trips I went on as I was beginning to get recruited to get drafted by the NFL. I went to San Francisco, and man, coming from Rock Hill, South Carolina, on that long flight over, I said, "Whoa." I probably would never get a chance to come home if I played for the 49ers, although they were my favorite team growing up. I really wasn't excited about becoming a 49er.
Mm-hmm.
And it didn't happen. But I looked at them again when I became a free agent. And then I looked at the Dolphins, which my wife is originally from Miami. So that was an area that she was really pulling for. And then it came to the Tennessee Titans. I looked at the organization, being that Coach Fisher was one of the longest tenure coaches at the time. I looked at the history of the Titans and the blue-collar, hard-working, physical style of football, similar to the Pittsburgh Steelers, but just in a different conference. And at one time, they were all in the same conference. I looked at the character of guys, the Eddie Georges, the Steve McNairs, the Brad Hopkins. Those were some of the same brand of guys that the Steelers had that kind of raised me into the professional that I became in my 5th year, going into my 5th year. So it had a lot of similarities. The housing area in the city of Nashville was growing, and it was nice. And most importantly, I had the opportunity to find an amazing church that I've been going to ever since. And now that I'm a deacon at Mount Zion Baptist Church, where Bishop Joseph Warren Walker III was my pastor, and he's been my mentor. He's my godfather to my children.
That's awesome.
He married me and my wife, and we are awesome friends. So my faith was bigger than anything. The biggest blessing that I had coming to Nashville wasn't to become the highest paid safety, wasn't to become a star and all pro and Pro Bowler for the Tennessee Titans. It was the opportunity for my faith to grow.
That's awesome. And maybe I jumped over this. I should have asked because you kind of hit on it. That Steelers team that you left, not that, you and Troy just were such a great safety tandem. How did it, really work between the two of you? Because, I mean, Troy was just such a special player that he just seemed to cover so much ground. How did you two play off of one another back there? And did, Coach Cowher kind of change how the defense was sort of run to let you two both really blossom?
I think Troy and I's relationship grew his rookie season when we were both on the scout team. And we took every rep together. I mean, every rep. And, we had a great feel of what he did well, what I did well, and what our weaknesses were. And we just trusted each other to the fullest. I mean, we became really, really good friends off the field, brothers on the field, and we would do anything for each other. I think, Troy had a rare set of skills that I don't think the league has seen since he retired. He could do some amazing things. And I could also do a lot of great things, being that we both could play both positions. We both could cover. We both could tackle in space. We both could be physical. We both had great hands and body control. We had the complete package at safeties.
Yeah, you guys just – the way that you two could pair up was just, so
right.
unique.
And it gave Coach Dick LeBeau, who was one of the greatest coaches of all time, gave him the ability and the flexibility to do whatever he wanted to do on defense, because you had two guys that not only could eliminate a big play in the passing game, but shut down a big run in the running game. If a running back happened to break free, we could shut a 20-yard gain down into a 10-yard gain. Or, when most teams look like it would be a 60-yard touchdown, it would be a 7 or 8 yard gain, because we were great open field tacklers as well. And I think we both pushed each other. He was the guy that had the height. I mean, not the height, because he deserved it all. He was the guy that got all the pub and all the media attention, had the nice hair. I had the bald head. He was the first rounder, and he was he deserved all that he got. He was always humble. He always included me in his success. He always acknowledged that without me, he wouldn't have the opportunity to have the range to do the things that he did, because I covered for him. But I'm not saying that he needed me to do any of that. But I think our level of respect for each other and the level of commitment that we had to each other, we brought out the best. I was just trying to get some of the overflow. I was the saucer. I was catching his overflow from all the success he had, and every Sunday I just showed up. He played well. The camera was on him, and I just kept showing up. And I had the opportunity to become my own star in another city. But I would have loved to see how well we could have played together in year 6 or 7 or 8.
Yeah, if you look back at just your playing days too. I mean, Dick LeBeau's notably for the zone blitz, right? So you guys probably, without knowing it, revolutionized that game and that fire blitz, and how they were able to roll the coverages and blitz off the edge, and just how talented you guys were, and how that plays such a pivotal role in today's spread game, where everything's throwing the football and trying to trick the quarterback into bringing different pressures too. So I look at it as a football nerd, like what you guys were able to do in that time frame, and the different defenses you guys were able to roll to. Was pretty special in a sense of looking back at it, and how much pressure you guys were able to get to the quarterback.
Yeah, I remember Troy, there were defenses where Troy would play the cornerback, and we would roll the corner to the half field to play half. I mean, Troy brought so much versatility to the game and to our defense. It was almost impossible to know what we were doing and how to stop it.
Yeah, I'll never forget. In college, my college defense coordinator brought up some tape, and he was like, "Watch Polamalu and Hopia. Watch how they rotate over." And I think it was Troy started on the left hash, and he got all the way into the boundary on the right side. It was just one of those things that only you guys with that much speed could do that and roll to that. It was pretty incredible to watch.
And you think that's crazy? You should have seen some of the practices where he would try this stuff at. You would have Coach Cowher on the sideline screaming like, "What in the world are y'all doing?" And it was something that I'm trying to do it now so I can feel comfortable doing it in the game. And we would kind of find each other. We would keep a little tally of finding each other. And we would have the run gashes for whoever would cheat. We would basically say, we have to touch the ball every play. Every play we're in, we have to touch the ball carrier. If you don't touch him, that's a half gas you have to practice at the end of practice. And then there were times where Coach LeBeau would want us to disguise the defense, and Troy would, getting us in shape at the same time, he would try to strain his body. He would say, we're both lining up on the line of scrimmage, and we're not running to the half field until the ball is snapped. And and I'm looking at Troy like, do you realize how far we have to run?
Say 20, 25 yards of cover from the line of scrimmage. Yeah.
And we would look on tape. If you left before that ball snap, you owe the half gas. You know, that's the type of thing we used to do to try to challenge each other and to hold each other accountable. But Troy perfected it so much that in a game, sometimes he would scare me because I've forgotten or I don't know what he's thinking. So I'm like,
is he going? Is he going? Is he going?
Troy, get back. And, you know, sooner or later, you know, he just became so comfortable with his diving over the center and all these plays. You know, I just got used to it, and I felt comfortable with him doing it.
Yeah. Now, before I ask, I want to talk to you about pros, but one last question that I wanted to ask you. You know, we just talked so much about how you and Troy played off of one another, but when you went to Tennessee, more of a free safety to more of like a strong safety, you know, how did you have to adjust your game? You know, going not just a new city, new team, but now your role is also a little bit different. What was it like for you to, you know, sort of adjust to how they were going to use you in their defense?
Well, I was naturally a strong safety. I played strong safety in my 9th grade year in high school, and I played it all the way until my junior year, to where I moved to free safety because most teams just started running away from me. So my coach put me in the middle of the field to where I could affect both sides of the game. So I'm naturally a free safety because of my IQ and my angles and just understanding the game. But my body type is a strong safety. You know, stocky, powerful, low center of gravity, very explosive when I tackle. So when I came to Nashville, it was an easy transition because I was always a guy who wanted to stick my face in the fan and make the big hits. But I had the ball skills of a free safety. But we drafted a great young guy named Michael Griffin, who was a free safety. He was a corner converted free safety, and his ball skills were off the chart. And he was a sideline to sideline guy. So that made it even more of a transition, or easier transition for myself. But I always loved and enjoyed playing closer to the line of scrimmage. You know, just playing with Troy, I didn't have an opportunity to do it as much. You know, I was always a physical guy who loved to blitz, loved to cover tight ends, loved to cover man-to-man. But when you're playing with a once-in-a-lifetime generational player like Troy, you know, you have to learn another position.
Yep. I just got one last question here too before Steve jumps into the P.R.O.S book as well. You were number one recruit coming out of high school. Why did you pick FSU, and what led to the decision to ultimately go there?
So Florida State was a dream school of mine. I always watched them. They were in part of the ACC, which is all the teams that's right where I'm from. You know, the farthest game my parents had to travel to see me was going to Tallahassee for a home game. You know, we played Duke, North Carolina State, Virginia, Maryland. All those were Clemson. All those were within 2 to 3 hours away from where my home city was. So it was easily accessible to my parents and my family to come see me play. It was also a team that played on national TV all the time. So if you couldn't get to the game, you could see me on national TV. And then the opportunity to play for the best team in the country with the best head coach and the best defensive coordinator, Mickey Andrews, and to play along the legacies of Deion Sanders and Terrell Buckley's and all those guys that came before me. You know, to be in the same locker room, playing the same team, put the same jersey on as Derrick Brooks and all those guys and Warrick Dunn. I mean, it was a dream come true for a kid that came from a small town from Rock Hill, South Carolina. And then opportunity to play in national championships, win ACC championships, and then get drafted. You know, it was a complete package for me. Perfect fit.
Yeah, for sure.
That's awesome. Yeah. So, you know, if anyone wants to Google Chris Hope, like the search results are going to be littered with you doing stuff in the community. I mean, for years, it just seems like whether it's your foundation, doing things with families or shopping sprees. I mean, you have been so dedicated to making a difference in the community. You know, before we even get to P.R.O.S, which of course is the book you just wrote, what, how have you gone about figuring out the best way to utilize your time and be of service to the community? Because it seems like that has been your number one priority from, but I'm sure before you retired, but it's evident after you retired that that is what you've been doing.
I think, I think about the Bible verse, to whom much is given, much more is required. And I think God has put me in this position, or put me on this stage, to use this platform that he's blessed me to have, to go out and not just encourage guys to become athletes or chase their dreams, but to leave a footprint, leave an impact. You know, playing the game of football has brought me a lot of great success. I've had the opportunity to not only live out my childhood dream, but to bless my family and create a legacy for my grandchildren. But I'm in the point now where I'm trying to transition from successful to significant. I think we all have the capabilities or ability to be successful at something, but there's only a few people who have the ability to become significant. And what I mean by significant is do something that will outlast your life. Do something that will still be talked about when you're gone or you're not playing the game of football. As you know, I haven't played football in 5 years, and the game is doing well without me. So I know that, that was a part of my journey and a part of my purpose, but that wasn't it for me. And I think I just started living again, to be honest, because I think football was a gift that God gave me, but it wasn't my purpose in life. And to have the opportunity to impact guys like a Jadeveon Clowney, a Stephon Gilmore, Cordell Patterson, those guys used to come watch me when I was in high school. Those were kids, and now, have the opportunity to look at them do the same thing that I was chasing or trying or striving to do as a kid, and to hear the impact that I made on them, and more importantly, to see the kind of guys they've turned out to be. One thing I'm proud of most of about the guys that have come from my hometown to make it into the National Football League, and these are not just guys that are barely making the roster. These are Pro Bowls,
Superstars,
All-Pro, superstars, first rounders. They never get in trouble. That's what's more important to me. You've never heard any of those guys getting in trouble. We have always tried to be class acts, and I've tried to make sure I set the standard for that. And more,
you look at you look at Gilmore. He got paid by the Patriots. That's rare. No one, the Patriots don't pay anybody, right?
And you tell me he wouldn't have got paid if he wasn't a character guy?
Yeah, no, to your point, 100%. Yep.
So that's one thing that I strive to impact. And then, I tell the community that I live in now, Nashville, which I love and is considered home to me, is that as an athlete, we so often get caught up into, or burnt out, rather I should say, burnt out in blessing the communities of the cities that we play in. And then in the off season, we're so burnt out from playing the game and helping out in the communities that we play in, we forget the hometown that we come from, where we had the biggest impact. So I vowed to myself that I would continue to do amazing things in the cities that I live and play in, but my hometown, where the people have watched me, supported me, helped me, encouraged me from a kid to where I am now, that's where I think I have the biggest thumbprint or biggest impact. So I have to go back and let these people see me and let these people touch me and let them know that if it can happen for me, it can happen for you. And I think that has been like the biggest constant reminder, hearing these guys when we all get back. We call it the Rock Boys. When all the Rock Boys get back in town and we're having a camp with the kids, that's the biggest thing they always remind me. I remember when I was a kid, and you came by and you signed my autograph, or you patted me on the back, or I looked over when I was playing Pop Warner football and you was over there watching the game. Those are the things that stood out to me the most. When you came back to my elementary, or you came to my middle school and you spoke, or, you just shook every teacher's hands. Those are the things that I remember the most. And that has inspired me to also come back and pour back into my community. So that's awesome. What started it all.
Yeah.
So how do you take that though, and then write a book? I mean, that's a big jump. What gave you that inspiration to take who you are as a person, what you believe in, and then put it down into words?
So that was God's assignment for me. I'll take no credit in that. Most athletes figure that we're experts at success and overcoming obstacles. And most people, or most athletes or successful people, people write books based on those things. You know, how I overcame a rough childhood, or how I jumped over this obstacle, the keys to success. You talked about it earlier. We all talk about becoming successful. We got 1,000 game plans on how to become successful. We got 1,000 game plans on how to overcome obstacles and adversity. But no one talks about how to stay at the top.
Mm-hmm.
Once you hit your head on the ceiling, there's only one place to go, and that's down.
Yep.
How do you hover at the top? How do you stay great? How do you stay influential? How do you stay impactful? And those things are what we don't talk about. And I think in my book, God placed this on my heart because I'll tell you, a random person came up to me and asked me a question. I know it was God sent because he asked me a question and it struck a nerve. It convicted me. He said, "What problem is there in the world today that you know of, that you specifically know of, and what are you doing to try to solve it?" Like, we all complain, we all fuss, we all say, "Oh, this could be different, that could be different," but what are we doing to change it? And when he told me that, he asked me that, I took that to heart. I prayed to God about it, and he placed this PROS acronym in my head, and I asked, like, what does that mean? And he said, parents relying on their seeds. And I said, well, explain to me what's that about and what's the message behind that. And he said, well, that's an issue that you personally have had issues with, and that if you look around, we all go through those same issues. You know, the premise is, as a parent, do you guys have children?
No, I don't.
Not yet.
No, not
Okay.
yet.
So you have parents.
Yep.
So being a child, one of our biggest dreams is to make our mom and dad proud. That's every kid. I don't care, white, black, poor, rich, you know, whatever you look like, wherever you come from, your biggest goal is to make your mom and dad proud. As a parent, and you'll attest to this one day you have a child, is to make a better environment, safer environment, financially stable environment for your children to grow up in. You want to create a better lifestyle for them than you had growing up. And those are two positive premises. But where does the line cross? Where does it come from? As a child, you want to make your mom and dad proud. You want to bless them for the sacrifices they made for you. To now it's a burden. Now the relationships are broken. Where does it come from a parent working 2 and 3 jobs, feeling like that's their responsibility to take care of their seed, to now is entitlement? This is what you owe me. This is what I did for you. You have to do it back for me. When that line gets crossed, the relationships are broken. And you're talking about the most important relationship in the world is between children and parents, siblings and other siblings. You know, you talk about the nucleus of what you were born in. God gave you your family for a reason. He didn't give us a chance to mess that up. He chose that for us. And the enemy, whether it's success, money, society, tries to destroy those relationships. And I was a guy that played 12 years in the National Football League, had all this major success, and then I look around and I don't have those that matter the most to me in my life or in my circle anymore. And I said, that's something wrong with that picture. You know, if somebody would have told me that you're going to have this great life, you're going to have an opportunity to fulfill all your dreams in your life, but you're not going to have those that you love the most to celebrate with, I wouldn't have took that deal.
Mm-hmm.
You know, the same people that I use as my motivation to become successful are the same people that I want to celebrate the success with.
Yep.
But when you add money, when you add success, when you add unhealthy boundaries, when you place your expectations on people, those things destroy relationships. Unmet expectations, unheard or hidden agendas, all those things destroy relationships. And if you look across in every profession, in every facet of life, broken relationships within families are one of the most important things that no one talks about, but we're all chasing success, and no one knows what happens when success comes. So my book is about addressing those issues, getting ahead of the curve, and having these conversations because I wanted to answer that question of a problem that is going on in this world today that I have the answer to, and God gave me the answer through the book. because I want you to not only become successful, but have those that you love the most to enjoy it with.
That's great.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's awesome. That's it's not everyone does it, right? I mean, people retire and we talk to players. This is close to our 30th episode on this. We talk to players all the time, and they hit that after they're done in the NFL. It's like, now what? So the fact that you're able to find that now what and make a positive influence with it is and it's impacting the community as well is awesome.
Yes, sir. I lived by that premise. Never allow what you do to become who you are, because if you can't do it anymore, you will be a no one.
Yep.
And I was just a football player, but I'm much more than a football player. So I try my best to continue to grow spiritually, continue to try to read and grow in the academic world as much as anything, to kind of continue to reinvent myself.
Mm-hmm.
That's awesome.
That's great.
Well, Chris, we're winding down here. So we have this last segment called the Gauntlet, where I need to ask you a couple quick questions, and I need your knee-jerk answer.
Okay.
What is most important, having the number one offense or the number one defense?
Number one defense.
Do you have a favorite football memory?
Favorite football memory, I would say playing high school football with my brother. He was a senior, and I was a freshman. I was 13 years old, and I had an opportunity to play with him his senior year in high school.
So that's awesome, but it's also very funny to me because LaRon McClain just told us that his favorite football memory was from high school as well. And it's just you guys with these, huge careers in the NFL, all these big moments. There's still something special about back in high school where something, for him, it was a homecoming game. For you, it's playing with your brother. That's very cool.
Yeah, it's special.
Now, did you have when you were playing a pregame ritual that you always stuck to every game day?
Well, every game day since about my junior year in high school, my aunt, one of my mom's older sisters, gave me this book of promises, and I would read it the night. I would do push-ups before the game. The night before the game, I do 100 push-ups, 100 sit-ups. I would read that book. It was on, it had different subtitles where they was talk about belief, patience, perseverance, character, confidence, faith. I would read, and it would have Bible scriptures that backed up the title, the subtitles, and I would read that, and then I would also read it before I went out on the field that Friday night or that Saturday or that Sunday. So I kept that book. I still have that book to this day. I talked about it also in my book P.R.O.S, but that was something that I did. And then I had a picture of my grandmother. She passed away maybe my 4th or 5th year in the league, so she couldn't come to every game, but I brought her to every game with me. So she always was in my locker.
That's amazing. Now, was there a player or coach that you wished you had the chance to have played with?
Player or coach? I played with some pretty amazing guys. I played for some awesome coaches. Dick LeBeau, Coach Cowher, Coach Bowden, Mickey Andrews. I mean, it doesn't get better than those four to me.
Mm-hmm.
Pretty awesome coaches. I had an opportunity to play with some amazing teammates. I mean, I list some of those amazing guys in my book as well. I mean, from the Heisman Trophy winners to the Lombardi Award winners to John Ikowski, the kicker. I played some amazing guys, to Chris Johnson, to Lindale White, to Albert Hainsworth. The list of Hall of Famers that I played with in Pittsburgh. I mean, I don't know who else I could add to the list.
Yep.
I'm very, very appreciative and blessed with my teammates and my coaches. And to play with two organizations, the Steelers and then the Florida State Seminoles. I mean, doesn't get any better than
Top
those
notch,
two.
yeah.
Yep. And I mean, Dick LeBeau, Hall of Fame player and a Hall of Fame coach. Who makes the Hall of Fame twice? I mean, that guy has to be, being around him has to be something special.
He's gonna make heaven though. He's going to make
that's the trifecta.
Right. I mean, he take all the Hall of Famers away. He's one of the best people you ever meet. Hands down.
Awesome. Last one for you. What's most important in winning? Is it the players or is it the scheme?
Oof. That's a tough question. I think Wow, that's a tough question.
Yeah.
I can see answering both of those. You have to have great players or decent players, above average players. But I think if you have a great scheme and you get them to buy into it, you got to win a recipe. But I think when you have those exceptional players, your scheme and your coaching can kind of get take a back seat because some of those guys can just do it for you. You know, you have those guys. You know, I think about Florida State a lot. We played at times. We played my man is better than your man football,
Yep.
and sometimes that's what you have to do. Get
Mhm.
out of the way. You got a guy like Michael Jordan, just give him the ball. You don't have to call a call. You got a LeBron James, just give him the ball. He makes it work. But then you have those guys like Pop. You have those guys like Coach Belichick, who can take a Coach LeBeau, who can take a guy who some coaches may say, I don't have a place for this guy. He doesn't fit in our future or our game plan. And they can find something and he can excel to the highest limit. You think about James Harrison, he was cut 2 times. 2 times. And you think about the free agents and the unknowns that Belichick uses every year. But once you get them to buy in, that system just keeps rolling. But they do have the great player in Tom Brady, you know, that kind of covers all that up. But you have guys that, you know, Chris Hogan. I think Chris Hogan, right? 15, number 15.
Yeah.
You know, he catches a pass that some all-pros couldn't have caught.
Yeah, that one-handed snack, yeah.
But his dedication to not wanting to let Coach Belichick down and not wanting to let Tom Brady down makes him go out and find a way to get it done. So I think that's a tough question.
Yeah, there's no right answer. Yeah, there's no right answer. There's no wrong answer. We've, like I said, asked close to 30 athletes and coaches, and we've gotten 30 different answers. So it's just always interesting to hear what different guys are saying.
Well, Chris, thank you so much again for taking the time with us. For our audience, Chris, again, the author of P.R.O.S. You can get that on his website or on Amazon. ChrisHopeFoundation.org, PROSbyChrisHope.com, Instagram at P.R.O.S by Chris Hope. Chris, is there anywhere else people should be following you?
They can follow me on my own personal Twitter account, ICHope24, and on my own IG, Chris P. Hope.
Awesome. Well, Chris, we wish you the best of luck. Anytime you have anything coming up with the foundation, anything you want to promote, please keep us in mind. We're happy to do anything to help. Thank you again. It was a pleasure.
Awesome.
Thanks, Chris.
Great time. Thank you.
Appreciate it.